Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. First tonight, the appeal by convicted murderer Susan Fraser has come to a sudden end, with 3 judges now deciding the fate of the 68-year-old. The appeal had been expected to go for 5 days, but finished today with closing arguments from both sides.
Back in court for an appeal cut short, Susan Fraser supporters still found something to sing about.
It was Sue's birthday today, yes, and we sang her happy birthday when she came into the court.
Today, both sides launched into closing submissions. Fraser's lawyers arguing not enough consideration had previously been given to DNA found on the yacht where Bob Chappell was murdered, DNA which belonged to then 15-year-old Megan Vass. Chris Carr SC said 2017 appeal testimony from forensic expert Maxwell Jones could have delivered a different outcome. There is a significant possibility the jury would have delivered a different verdict had the evidence of Jones been before it, he said. There was a significant miscarriage of justice. The appeal should be allowed and a retrial ordered. But Public Prosecutions Director Darryl Coates fired back, arguing Jones's evidence could not have led to a significant possibility that the accused could have been acquitted. Mr Coates maintained the Crown did not believe Megan Vass had been on board the Four Winds, rather that her DNA ended up on the boat through secondary transfer, such as a shoe. Both sides abandoned evidence given by Miss Vass earlier this week. The appeal adjourned early this afternoon, with 3 Supreme Court judges now reserving their decision. Await Fraser supporters hope won't be too long.
Whilst in some ways a lot rides on this, we will never stop fighting for this case until this miscarriage of justice is overturned.
Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
The eligibility of patients to access voluntary assisted dying was the focus on the second day of debate in Parliament over the proposed legislation. While more amendments to the bill were brought forward, the government also came under fire once again over Tasmania's housing crisis.
This mother of 5 feeling the pressure of Tasmania's tight housing squeeze. Megan Doyle says she's sleeping on her mother's couch as the cost of home ownership in Hobart passes even more capital cities. She's been on the public housing waiting list with her family for 18 months.
That's not a life for my children. And me being pretty much the only parent for the kids, it's not fair on them. It took a lot.
Her housing stress at the forefront of pressure in Parliament. Labor leader Rebecca White claiming the wait list has jumped by 65% since the Liberals took office.
They can't afford private rental. They are completely dependent on social housing, and this government's failed to build the social housing properties that they promised.
The state government says Housing Connect has been in contact with her case and others referred today, while Premier Peter Gutwein sticks to his guns on his solution to the crisis.
The only way that you can solve a housing challenge where demand is high is to increase supply. Increase supply. 7 years. Is to increase supply. That is the only way that we can deal with the pressures of demand, Madam Speaker, by increasing supply. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Meanwhile, an amendment to proposed voluntary assisted dying laws has been voted down. The Greens pushing to remove a doctor's decision for eligibility based on how long a patient has been predicted to live for.
It shouldn't be a requirement of accessing this legislation that a doctor has used their best estimate. We need to focus on the unrelievable suffering of the person.
But the proposal failed to win support.
There needs to be a lot more work and engagement done with the community before I would contemplate supporting an amendment such as this.
I think that removing the prognostic timeframe at this stage of the game would be totally out of step with how the bill has been developed and communicated and discussed.
Instead, a new timeframe of 12 months left of life for eligibility was put forward by the Greens, also voted down. The bill will be continued to be debated this evening and tomorrow. Ruby Kamain, 7 Tasmania News.
A deliberately lit blaze has shattered windows and left a home blackened in Launceston. Luckily, no one was home. Police are still hunting for the offender.
As flames escape through the roof of the Summerhill home, firefighters bash their way inside. Their mission, to knock down the blaze before it can spread beyond the Van Diemen Avenue property. The pitch black interior making for a tough task. Thankfully, no one was trapped inside. The public housing home remained blackened the next morning. Everything was destroyed.
There's a lot of work to do here before this is really livable.
Neighbours who raised the alarm then watched from a distance as 3 crews worked tirelessly to contain the threat.
We received the call around about 9:30 last night. It's extended right through the whole house, smoke and fire damage impacting on the full inside of the structure.
With the damage bill tipped to be as high as $250,000, a decision will now be made on whether to demolish the home. Police are now searching for an arsonist, deeming the fire to be deliberately lit. They're appealing for any tip-offs which could help track down those responsible. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
Well, basketball fans are set for a sneak peek of top-flight basketball ahead of the state's entry to the NBL. The New Zealand Breakers will make Launceston their home base for at least a month, starting in April, with plans for 6 games at the Silverdome.
Basketball fans, starved of elite action, have been awaiting the state's entry into the NBL.
They wouldn't normally come to Tasmania, obviously, because we haven't really had an NBL team.
Because you don't normally see them play.
But ahead of the Jack Jumpers' arrival, the New Zealand Breakers will be setting up camp in Launceston from Easter. They're planning to play 6 games at the Silverdome.
To have a sneak preview of games leading up to when the Jack Jumpers start, it's tremendously exciting for the sport.
Just being able to have the opportunity to have these games up here, we as a town or as a region can demonstrate that we can support more games in the future.
It's a coup for Launceston. With Hobart set to be the main home for the Jack Jumpers, the extra games in the north have been welcomed. Local administrators say this can only aid the basketball boom that they're currently experiencing.
It really shows a commitment from the NBL that they want to invest in Tasmanian basketball.
The fixture, as yet, is unconfirmed.
Any of the teams that get scheduled in Tassie, I think the Tasmanian public and certainly the basketball community will come out in full force and get right behind it.
Basketball Tasmania are planning events around the matches.
The Launceston Tornadoes, how we can work in with the NBL 1 club there. Is there potential for there to be double headers? There's a 3-on-3 event with the Jack Jumpers coming up as well.
The state government say it's another chance for Tasmania to show it can host top-level sport.
This deal with the NBL will generate positive economic and social outcomes and will put our state in the national spotlight ahead of our entry to the NBL.
That long-awaited entry as a fully fledged member is now only months away, and the inter-club banter has already begun. The Breakers are being warned against stealing any potential Tasmanian fans.
It might go in the reverse. We might actually look at a player or two that might be a Jack Jumper in the future.
Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
On the AFL front, there are developments in the state government standoff with the league over a Tasmanian team. Let's bring in Tom Johnson for the latest. Now, Tom, the government wants clarity over where we stand. Will it have an answer sooner than the end of the year or not?
Yes, Kim, it will, if the AFL is on board with what the Premier's now asking for. Peter Gutwin has spoken to the league's boss, Gil McLachlan, twice in recent days, asking the AFL to get on with the job of digesting Tasmania's submission for an AFL team by the middle of the year. 2 weeks ago, the league said it needed until the end of the year to do this. Also at play, the independent consultant who will lead this review. The Premier insists whoever it is needs to be suitable for both the AFL and the state, and not someone solely chosen by the league. Arrangements with Hawthorn and North Melbourne over their future beyond this year remain on hold. Another update on these talks is being promised by Friday next week. Kim?
Be great to be a fly on the wall with some of these talks, wouldn't it? Thanks very much, Tom. South Australian artist Jason Cordero has taken out the first prize awarded at the Glover Prize Art Show. His work, The Expedition of the Artificer, won the Hangers' Choice Award and will be on show with all other entrants this weekend at the Falls Park Pavilion in Evandale.
The Hangers thought that this reminded them of John Glover's famous painting, View of the Artist's Home and Garden, at Mills Plain, which is in the Art Gallery of South Australia.
The major winner will be announced on Friday night, with the People's Choice Award to follow on Sunday. The world's most famous sunflowers have arrived at Canberra's National Gallery. Van Gogh's masterpiece is one of dozens of priceless pieces in the exhibition, showcasing nearly 500 years of European art.
61 of the best examples of paintings made by the most important European artists of all time.
Works are currently on loan from the National Gallery in London. It's the first time the 200-year-old collection has embarked on an international tour. New research reveals a devastating toll of the deadly facial tumour disease on the Tasmanian devil population. Its estimates only 17,000 devils remain in the wild, down from a peak of 53,000 in 1996. Experts say the disease has spread to 90% of the state, covering nearly all of the species' geographic range. Those working on the project spent nearly 2,000 nights trapping devils to determine how far the disease had spread. In more positive findings, researchers predict the sharp decline in the population should plateau in the next decade to around 12,000 devils.
Tasmanian long-distance runner Stuart McSwain has set the fastest time for the 5,000 metres in Australia since 2006 at a meet in Box Hill. It's also the second fastest time by an Australian on home soil.
I'm going to go there, try and give it a good shake. I'm a pretty confident guy. I'm going to back myself in and hopefully I can execute a race that I'm proud of and everyone who helps me out is as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
And grab your beanie, the Launceston Running Festival is returning to its chilly time slot. The 2021 event will be held on the June long weekend after last year's edition was shifted to December due to COVID. Entries are now open, with organisers backing the traditional start date, while the Clifford Craig Foundation is partnering with the event to raise money for anti-smoking research.
The most important thing is we create awareness for anti-smoking. And you think about this event, one's about actually having healthy lungs. We're trying to actually raise money to make sure that other people don't get poor lungs.
It fits within the national running framework for our elite athletes, so we think going back to June is perfect.
December's event was capped at 2,000 runners. Nearly 300 came from interstate. A half marathon option is on offer in addition to the popular Launceston 10. Time to get training, Kim.
Good evening everyone. 20 degrees in Launceston today, Burnie and Devonport 19 and 17 in Hobart. Friendly Beaches and Cressy, the state's top, reaching 21, 19 in St Helens, Flinders Island and Low Head 18, King Island and Smithton a top of 17 and 13 in Lyowini. Extensive cumulus cloud can be seen across most of Tasmania and surrounding waters today. And across Australia, patchy mid-level cloud moves over Western Australia from the Indian Ocean, while low-level cloud moves over Tasmania and coastal parts of southeastern Australia. Tomorrow's chart shows the stationary high over the Bight and a cold front over and to the east of Tasmania. A trough extends into northern Australia and another trough over Western Australia. Westerly winds tomorrow 20–30 knots, reaching 35 knots about the south and lower east. And there is a gale warning current from Cape Portland to St Helens Point, and also from Wineglass Bay to Low Rocky Point for west to southwesterly winds, and a strong wind warning for all remaining coastal waters and southeast inshore waters apart from the Derwent Estuary. Showers in the south tomorrow with Hobart, Cygnet and New Norfolk all reaching 21 degrees. Partly cloudy and 24 in Launceston, 22 in Devonport and Campbelltown. Burnie, 20 degrees tomorrow, showers and 18 in Strawn, 19 in Smithton, and in the east, 24 in St Helens and partly cloudy and 22 in Swansea and Fingal. And the UV tomorrow is very high across the state with sunrise expected at 6:55 a.m. Looking on to Friday now, light showers about the west, south and lower east, fine elsewhere. Fine apart from light morning showers about the south and east coast on Saturday. And on Sunday, fine with just light winds. 26 in Perth and Adelaide tomorrow, 21 in Melbourne, sunny and 27 in Canberra and Brisbane and 33 in Darwin. And currently clearing showers in Hobart with 15 degrees, Launceston partly cloudy and 18 and 16 in Devonport also partly cloudy. And Kim, that's all your weather tonight.
Thank you very much, Chelsea, and that's your midweek news. There'll be news, sport and weather updates throughout the evening. But for now, on behalf of the team, good night.